Hello and welcome to day 7 of the development journal for this new game, working title Era. So, this is day 7, which means it's been one full week since I started this project. I've done quite a few different things. Some of it is or most of it was exploratory, trying to figure out what I could do. I have not written in this language before. I've built games using Objective-C. I've built tons of websites using Python, Ruby on Rails. I've used Java to build games and things like that. So I've done a whole bunch of stuff, but I've never actually used C# before. So it was a bit of an exploratory week to see what kind of things I could pull off. And if you've programmed before, you know that once you've done it long enough, most of the languages start to feel like they're pretty much the same. There's a lot of differences, but essentially when you're programming, your mindset is about the same on all these things. So I was very comfortable with working with C#. So I'm very happy with the week. Let's just put it like that. Um, Today I sort of switched it up and I went back to mapping to sort of get ready for doing cutscenes and things. I'm trying not to step on my own feet where I have to go back and forth. So I know with cutscenes I want to do a dialogue system, which is going to probably be brought in from a text file, whether it be a comma separated file or an XML. I'm leaning towards XML at this time. So I know that's sort of the direction I want to go. But before that, I wanted to make sure that I had my scenes down. I had a way to enter a scene, and it's been bugging me in the back of my head how I was going to do the maps. Actually, I've been thinking about it for like 5 days now, like different options. And I kept going back to a program called Tiled and doing a tile-based map. I've used it on a few games before in the past, different style game than these, but I have used it before and I really like the software, and it's come a long ways I think I used it 8 years ago, so it has come a long way since then. And it's amazing. I love it. So I'm deciding I'm gonna stick with it. Also, it's free, so it's perfect. And there's a lot of tools you could use using a tile-based system like this that you can import into Unity, such as your layering and some collision objects and things like that. And it's all going to build the meshes for you and do it in a smart way, which is something else I was I spent a few hours every day looking into how I was going to manage the map because it's going to be a big thing, a lot of resources. That's a complicated part of the game, and I think this is going to be a good solution. So, anyways, I got sort of this tile map from opengameart.org, I believe it is. That's where I've been going to for some inspiration and some things. And I like this style, so I brought it in. It needed a bit of work. So I redid the whole sheet. These weren't organized like this. They were just sort of all over the place. So I brought it in. I redid this in Photoshop. Yeah, I redid all of that in Photoshop. Here's my Photoshop file. It's quite large, and I don't know why my computer's lagging so much, but yeah, so I did that. And then what I think I'm going to do is modify this set because I like what's happening in the set so far. I like the art direction it's going. I just want to modify it a little bit to be more my style. But essentially, I think it's a good tile set. Most tile sets are the same. You know, you got grass, trees, walkways, and these types of things. So that's sort of where this is coming from, the tile set. And then I took that tile set and I started laying it out maybe in a rough fashion for this little area. Maybe this is a shop or a housing area up here on this little hill. And then I started playing with the size. This tile map right here is 250 tiles by 250. I did one at 500 to see if I could. That's 250,000 game objects. And it loaded up into the game perfectly fine. I had the game running it perfectly fine, but it is hard. It's a hard size to work with, and I know a lot of different map organizations out there, like reading the forums and stuff, people that just build these maps for fun. A lot of them have a standard of 250 tiles for a large map, so I figured I'm just going to do that because the game can easily handle it. I could go bigger, but there's really no need. If we have like five worlds of this size, and that's plenty of exploration for a player. Like if you sort of look, this little tiny area here is just this one hill, and I can have like a town up in the corner up here. I can have forestry, caves, like a different village down here, like different options, and you can do your level design so it's sort of interesting. But anyway, so I did that, and then I started fooling around with how collisions might work. So I don't think I have it on here. I don't, but there are collisions set up for a lot of these items. I haven't done everything yet, but this cliff edge here, it has collisions on it. The base of the trees do. So that's going to get imported into Unity for the collision detection. And then I also started working on layers, so I had foreground and background and base tiles. So the trees, I could walk behind part of the trees as well as part of the stumps I can walk behind. I haven't got that 100% yet because I sort of stopped working on it because I figured it out and I said, well, I can just go back and clean it up in the next few days. But some of the shadows weren't working properly and things like that. And I think I'm going to do a technique where when you walk behind a tree, it actually goes a little bit transparent so you can still see yourself. But I can do all that later on. I just sort of testing a lot of these, how I'm going to do the map, and I think I found a solution for that. So anyways, that's that. I can also pass this layering through using custom properties into the Unity layering system. So it actually layers the way that Unity wants it as well as the tile map wants it. So I can do it all from one spot instead of having to go back and forth. All right, so that's the tile map, which I really like. In the game here, you can see the character on the tile map. It looks pretty cool. What else did I work on? Okay, so I wanted to start working on the cutscenes. So I went in here and I created a, go to my projects folder. I created a cutscenes controller, and I think actually did I do anything else? Yeah, I deleted that. Okay, so all I've really done actually is a cutscenes controller to get this working. And the cutscenes controller is tiny, so here it is in like 30 lines. So all it does is it finds a collider that I'm going to set up. So on the map, I'm going to put in different spots, different collider triggers to say, okay, if the player enters this area of the map, do a cutscene. Or if they interact with this person, do a cutscene. So that's sort of what the collider is going to accomplish. As soon as they touch this, it says, okay, they're at a spot. Let's throw them a cutscene. And then all I do is just on trigger enter. So as soon as I hit that thing, I ask the game controller, the overall controller for the game. I say, can you start a cutscene? And I pass it the cutscene I want to start. And then from that controller, I have access through a public function here called next line. And eventually I'm going to bring in my dialogue, and I can just sort of walk through it using next line. Now this was probably going to have to get a lot more complicated with choices and things, but for now this is just getting it up and running. I have this function. And this is checking if it's going to be the last line. I don't obviously have a list or an array, so I just pass true here. But eventually this is going to check if this is the last item, there's nothing else to show, the cutscene is over. So what I do is I just set the collider to false so that the character can't interact with it anymore. That cutscene is done. They're not going to be able to do the cutscene anymore by setting it to false. I'm going to actually build that out a little bit more to make it so that even on game reloads, it remembers that they've actually seen that cutscene before, so it won't even put it there in the first place. So, but that'll come in time. This is very early. And then there's the game controller. I just access the end cutscene from there. So I start a cutscene when we first entered into it, and when all the dialogue is done, then I just call an end cutscene. So the game controller is pretty simple. I had to add a few things here, like a cutscene controller private variable or member variable, and then let's just see what I did here. I have a start cutscene, which sets a game state. Oh, that's the big thing I did. I set up a game state enum here for whether the game is in play, cutscene, pause, game over, account. And then in here in update, instead of, I think I had a button that shot us back to menu. So instead of doing that, which was just temporary anyways, I am causing a switch to occur, which this is a little different than I did it in the main controller. In the main controller, I use these delegates. I want to try this switch here because just to see the difference. So I did the game state here, and then I said if the game is paused, I'm going to do a pause of the screen or something. I'm going to do something with pause here, call a function. And then I have another case if it's game over. The reason why I'm doing is switching here, I think I did it this way mainly because I'm not going to be calling like play or cutscene or anything. So I'm only going to check if it's pause or game over. That's the only reason why I'm doing switching case there. So that's been added. We have the cutscene, which just sets the game state to cutscene. and then it assigns to a private variable cutscene controller. It just assigns the controller we're passing. I'm doing this because I'm going to have many different controllers there for all the different cutscenes on the map. So I needed a way to tell the game controller which cutscene we're actually using right now. So that's how that happens. And then the end cutscene, which I added, is simply setting the game state back to play because it's all over now. We hand the controls back to the player so that it sets the game state back to play, and it just sets the cutscene controller to null, saying that we're not in a cutscene anymore, so we don't have a controller for it. And then down here on all the controls, if you remember from last time, we were overriding all the controls. So what I did here was simply check if the game state is play, and then pass the control, like have the function the control hit a function here for set direction if this is direction one. On interact, I check if it's play, and then use the on interact here. And also on attack press, I just check to make sure that we're in game state play. The only one that's sort of getting affected now is the interact pressed. I have an else statement here to see if the game state is in a cutscene. So cutscenes are going to allow the interact button to be pushed to walk through the cutscene and to actually move from one line to the next. And if the interact button is pressed, then the cutscene controller will hit the next line. And that's pretty much it. That's all the changes there. So if you remember, the next line is just where we check the lines, we display them on the screen, and then if it's the last line, we shut everything down and end the cutscene. So that's it. That's the code that I wrote. It's pretty simple, but it took a little bit of planning to get that to really be a tight solution. We can go in here, and I'll just run this, and you can sort of see the scale of the map. This is running a little bit slow. Maybe it's because I'm recording. Yeah, I don't know why. It's because I'm recording, I think. It's usually running at like 60 to 70 FPS, but for some reason it's running at 40 to 50. Really weird. But anyways, let's just check this out in here. And I've set up a trigger right at the top of this hill. So if somebody comes to the top of this hill for the first time, it's going to trigger a cutscene. Now, obviously, I don't have any dialogue yet, so it's not going to do anything but freeze. So I'm going to go up here, and I wonder if I still have it. I took out the console logs, but I don't have control over the. I can hit the buttons, and I'm not moving at all. I've sort of lost control. So what I can do from this point is animate NPCs and even animate the player and show text, and the actual user, the game player, can't control that at all while it's in this state. Now, as they're progressing through the dialogue and the different parts of the cutscene, they're going to be hitting the interact button, which is E, and that's going to show them the next line and move things along. And once it reaches the end of the cutscene and they push E, it's going to say, "Oh, end of cutscene." So it returns. Wait a minute. Okay, so it returns the control back to the player there, and perfect. I'm just checking. I wanted to show actually the. I'm going to stop this and show the, where is it, cutscenes. Okay, so I have a cutscene here. Here's the collider, and here's the cutscene controller. Okay, so that's the script I added to this object, which is the collider is, oh, sorry, right there. You can sort of see that green line there. Okay, so I'm going to play again, and what we're going to do is watch, so I'm going to go in here, and I can't move anymore. So this little checkbox here means that the collider is active and enabled within the scene. So my code, what happens is when it gets to the end line and I push the interact button, which is E in my case, it's going to end the cutscene and shut off the box collider so that I don't interact with it anymore. So I do that, E, I can move, and the box collider has been shut off. So now I can walk up and down this hill, no big deal. And that cutscene will not play anymore. So perfect. So here's a little illustration of walking behind that map object. You can see the shadow is not working properly, but that can easily be fixed. I did that really quickly, but I can't walk through the stump, but I can walk behind it. And the trees, I still have to figure some stuff out with the trees, but I can walk behind them. Again, the shadow is not complete, but this is all done using that tile editor. A very really cool piece of software to make these maps, and then it's very useful for working directly with Unity. So anyways, and I can't fall off the cliff. That sort of done for us there. And if we go along the other way, this is getting to be a long video, but I'll just show you this to end it off, is we collide with the rock going this way as well, and we collide with it going this way as well. So I can't get into that area because it's on top. It's like sort of a different elevation. All right, so there you have it. There's the progress on day 7. That's 1 week into game development. I have a mapping system that I enjoy using. I'm going to like using, and it's going to work. I have the basic game architecture underway. I have a good garbage collection system up and running. I have good controller system up and running, and I've also started my cutscene controller to start and stop cutscenes. So I think things are moving along quite nicely. Thanks for watching. Again, if you have comments, let me know. If you want tutorials on any of this stuff more in depth, let me know. I'll do that. I just don't want to start wasting time. I'm sort of trying to split my time evenly between game development. If people want in-depth tutorials, I will definitely do them. So leave comments, subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.